Palestinian Islamic Jihad and Hamas in the West Bank, the popular mobilization units in Iraq. So this is, we need to remember, this is the leading player, the leading evil player in the Middle East is Iran. It's the biggest threat to the whole region, and its regime is the problem. Don't separate what Israel is doing with Hamas, what Israel is doing with Hezbollah. It's all one and the same. It's all about the Islamic Republic of Iran that wants to dominate the Middle East. So Iran has the blood for decades of many Americans on its hands, as well as our allies. Think about Iran and their militia, Iraq, shooting into Kurdistan, killing innocent people. What should America do? It's not about the retaliation with missiles or drones. What really needs to occur is an alliance comes together amongst moderate Sunni countries, the United States, Western Europe, and Israel. And what is needed is a call for regime change in Iran to be pro-Iranian. To be pro-Iranian means be pro-Iranian people who have the worst human rights imposed upon them by that very bad regime. And so this should be a turning point, an inflection point, to take advantage of this opportunity to call for regime change as part of American policy in the Middle East. That is how you really get to Iran, how you make a better day in the future for the Middle East. And that would resonate throughout the Middle East, from Saudi Arabia to Kurdistan to Gaza. Okay, so you alluded to that Israel indiscriminately targets civilians in Gaza. And I can tell you, I've been embedded with Israeli troops over 5 Gazan wars, including this most recent conflict 3 different times since October 7th, including being in Israel and seeing the massacre with my own eyes on October 7th. I can tell you without any hesitation that Israel does not. I agree with you. I don't believe my government has done enough in combating Iran over many years. And this is of both Democratic and Republican administrations. We can go back to President Obama, where he did not support the Iranian people in 2009 during their Green Revolution. We can go to President Trump when Iran directly attacked Saudi Arabia, our ally, at their oil facilities, and there was no response. And we can go to President Biden in the Masa Amini protests that occurred in 2022 and 23, where we were rhetorically supportive, but we did not really stand behind them. My country, and what I try to tell when I speak to people in Congress and other foreign policy advisors, is that we cannot look through our American eyes, but we need to realize how our actions are interpreted in the Middle East, especially by our adversaries, especially by our biggest adversary, Iran. And when they see that we don't respond, that we only are doing defensive actions, that shows weakness. And unless we have credible military threats, that is the best way to have regional peace and decrease the chance of Iran doing these type of things. Well, Iran would like to fight through its proxies. That's what makes this a defining moment, that they actually attacked from Iranian territory. Iran will die to the last drop of its Arab neighbor's blood, the one of its proxies, whether we're talking about Hezbollah or the Houthis or the people in Iraq. As long as they're not paying a consequence. Iran needs to pay a consequence for you to have action. And I do want to reiterate that if you want to solve the problem, and very few things can be solved, but the one way to really deal to the root cause of this problem is to deal with regime change. And regime change does not mean American boots on the ground. It means that we have a policy to support the Iranian people to be free. And that's what they want. And that's what we should do as the leading democracy in the world. changing the Iranian regime is about what the Iranian people want. America is not going to change the regime. What we can be is to tell the Iranian people we are supportive of their desire to free themselves from the terrible human rights abuses, capital punishment, sexual violence against its own people, and that we want to stand with them to change that. That helps the Iranian people, it helps the people of the Middle East, and it helps American foreign policy. Once we do that, because now that Iran has crossed a threshold by directly attacking our primary ally in the region, Israel, many of the other countries in the yes. So I can tell you a story. In 2003, I was asked on ABC television, ABC radio, if America should go into Iraq. And I said at that time, if you don't have a plan for Iran, the primary problem in the Middle East, don't go into Iraq. And that American policy missed that point that Iran was, is, and for the foreseeable future will be the primary problem there. America did not handle Afghanistan well. When we left Afghanistan and we abandoned them back to the Taliban, that was a terrible message to all our allies in the world that any ally that sticks with us can be abandoned. We should learn a painful lesson not to do that again to an ally. But there is no difference since the 45 years of the Iranian Revolution that the primary problem is Iran. And unfortunately, too many American administrations have chosen appeasement and have thought that there'll be reciprocity